I get those goosebumps every time.
I just have to get the big fella off the bench.
Could this be their last chance now? In it comes, Monster to the post! He scored! Monster scored!
I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too numb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need that line to throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713 through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me outside? I'm slipping low key. And I get those goosebumps every time. I'm around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those cons. I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need that.
Here we go. Back again. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. Another fully loaded transfer show. We're back again. Feels like we haven't left. I feel like we've just been sat here talking since the last show, and then we're just
about the same thing.
Same thing. Let's go again. Look, Wednesday evening, another mad one being a Newcastle United fan these days in the transfer window. But first of all, boys, how are you? How are things? How are we feeling tonight?
All good at me. A rush for this one. Get work done, get little boy collected, and get going. I guess get some food and yeah. But looking forward to talking to Jordan, and I know well Jordan's going to say we'll be all looking forward to this, that, and the other, and Jordan's going to go, no, that's not happening. He's gonna spoil our dreams. He's going to spoil the party, but hopefully not. Let's see what he has to say. How are you, Chris?
Mate, I'm fucking knackered. Do you know what? I think it's this transfer window, honest to God. I can't stop thinking about incomings, outgoings, PIF, about, FFP. I was going to say PFP. I'm just thinking about everything, and I'm just up the wall. But other than that, I'm good. I'm really, really, really looking forward to tonight's show, because obviously it's great that Jordan's back on with us. It's been a long time. We love having Jordan on. So yeah, really looking forward to tonight's show, and hopefully he can give us some positive news with any luck.
Yeah, let's wait and see. He's on his way. He'll be here very shortly. Just I think restarting his laptop, so he'll be here very shortly. But look, massive thanks to everyone in the chat already. Around 100 of you jumped into the chat, getting your comments in already. Get your questions in for Jordan for when he comes and joins us about any player of Newcastle United, because it just seems like at the moment every player is up for sale, and it just goes from one to the next to the next to the next. And there's a couple of new ones added into there, that's for sure, that we haven't talked about for a few days. But as Lisa's just put in the chat, likes, Daz, what we're going for tonight, fella?
Yeah, that's what I was going to go for. I think a new target, because people keep blowing the targets I set. So I'm just gonna pick random numbers anymore. So I want a target of 307. 307 is your target. So see what you can do. Every target I've set so far, it's been blown out of the water for a number of likes. So 307. Let's see what you can do. We can increase it as we get closer to the transfer window closing. But yeah, let's go with that.
I like it.
I like that, definitely. Okay. And of course, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, we had another 10 plus subscribe last night. Can we get another 10 tonight? Come on, come and help us along. Let's keep the train moving as we approach that sort of 6.5, 7K milestone. But look, already questions pouring in for the main man, and as we expected, he's here. So let's welcome in Jordan's own Jordan CRONIN, and we even had the little, what was it?
Here he is. Here's Jordan.
Hey.
He's back. He's back.
Oh, the dartboard behind you
Nice,
there, Jordan. It's a new feature. I like it.
Yeah. I've been watching Luke Littler during the World Championships and thought I'd give myself a go. But no, it's not going very well. So I don't think I'll be playing on the world stage anytime soon. Hopefully be covering Newcastle United for a long time instead.
Yeah, good stuff. Where you want to be as well, eh? Where you want to be.
Of course.
But look, it's been a while, so great to have you back on, mate. First and foremost, great to have you back joining us. And where do we start, mate?
Where do we start? I mean, going to get a lot of names thrown at me here, but I mean, it's been a crazy weekend. Bear in mind that the weekend was meant to be my first weekend off in quite a while. Actually, given all the Champions League and Cup games, etc. My girlfriend wasn't too pleased with me at the weekend, given I was trying to find out little bits of information. But yeah, for given that nothing happened in the transfer window for 20 plus days, and all of a sudden 4 or 5 players have been linked with exits. Yeah, I mean, I should have predicted this. It's never ever quiet with Newcastle United. So maybe I should have come to expect this. But no, it's been crazy. Where you want to start, lads? I'm not sure. I'm happy to be led by you guys. Obviously, a lot of names I see out there at this moment in time.
Well, just before we kind of get into those names, because there has been updates on a number of different players, and look, us boys were just kind of just shooting the breeze on it really just before we come live. But let's kind of rewind a little bit here, and let's go back to the Darren Eells interview, because I know you captured it as well with regards to that. And look, from the Darren Eells perspective, and obviously from your own perspective, what did you make of all of that? Because a lot of people, particularly outside of Newcastle United, were jumping on it. Oh, we're going to sell Isak, we're going to sell Botman. We've covered it as well. Those boys have talked about it as well. What did you make of all of that as it came out? Were you worried for Newcastle fans, other perspective, are we going to lose the top players, or did you assume at that point it was going to be something else?
No, I'll be brutally honest. Obviously, as you mentioned, I did sit in the meeting with Darren Eells, and the reason why the likes of Bruno's, Isak, and Botman's were mentioned in national newspaper articles about players that could potentially be sold mostly in the summer, was because Darren Eells was asked specifically about those 3 players, and he didn't rule out any exits. And he said, in a PS or world or FFP world, that selling players is just one of them things that's gonna happen. And I mean, you look through Newcastle's squad, them 3 players I've named there are absolutely the most. I mean, their transfer fees are the highest within the whole of Newcastle United squad. But then what I think what maybe the club have done quite cleverly is, I think Darren Eells has sat down with us, said players are open offers on players, and it's almost like put the feelers out for players that are in the sort of I wouldn't say fringe, but not those 3 players that I just named. So the players that we've seen linked with exits over the weekend, like say Callum Wilson's, Almiron's, Kieran Trippier, which I think is different, but I'll come on to that. If I think it's quite obvious that Newcastle need to sell, as it stands now, that they need to sell players to only bring more players in. Maybe in the summer it might change, because depending on how fast rules change, but I know Premier League clubs are meeting in February to look at changes to the current PSR rules, and then go further in line with UEFA, which is more about player wages and turnover. Specifics on that, I'm not exactly sure. So the situation could change in the summer, but I think as we stand now in this transfer window, if Newcastle want to go out and sign a player, they'll have to go and sell someone. And if you're asking me now, who would I rather sell? Would I rather sell a Callum Wilson or a Miguel Almiron, or would I rather sell Bruno or Botman in the summer? It's going to be the 2 fringe players every day of the week, because for me, I look at Newcastle's squad. There's brackets in Newcastle's squad, and I think the top bracket is absolutely have to keep is Bruno, Botman, even though Bruno's got a release clause. Got to keep those players. You can't get rid of them. And then below that, I think there's players that that are sellable assets, and maybe you could deal without. And I do think the likes of Callum Wilson's and Miguel Almiron are the players that you would potentially, you'd probably look to sign. Look to sell, sorry. I think assessing each player individually, I think if Newcastle sell this summer, they've got to go out and sign a replacement. They can't sell those players and not bring anyone in, because it sends out a really bad message, actually, that Newcastle at this moment in time got a weakened squad, and then to even weaken that even further by selling those players, not bringing anyone in would be a really ridiculous thing to do. So I think they've got to. As I'm sitting now, I think they've got to keep all the squad that they've got, but I do see logic to maybe 6 months down the line selling the Callum Wilson or Almiron, because I say that they are sellable assets. You can probably, with Almiron, say 25, 30 million potentially. You then got Callum Wilson, who I think is an unbelievable Premier League striker, by the way, but it's a backup option to Alexander Isak. He's not consistent enough in terms of his fitness, and I'd rather have. And this is probably a controversial opinion. Actually, might be one for the guys in the chat, but I'd rather have a backup striker who could play every game of the season when Isak need to come out of the firing line than have a Callum Wilson who isn't there to be relied on, scores lots of Premier League goals, but ultimately because he doesn't play, it's a detriment to Isak as well, because Isak's broken down a few times this season because he hasn't had that cover, because Callum Wilson hasn't been there because he's injured. So I mean, I think I'm waffling a little bit here.
No.
But yeah, I mean, to go back to the point, I think if Newcastle want to strengthen this summer, they're going to have to sell someone. Do I think they'll sell someone? I don't think they will. I think there's a lot of noise at this moment in time, but I do think in 8 days' time, whatever the transfer window, whenever it shuts, I do think Newcastle will be left with the same squad. But yeah, I know I'm happy to go into detail of any of those players as well. I see a lot to get your head around. I appreciate that I'm waffling here, glad. So do apologise.
Hang on, Pete. Before you get into it, Jordan has come out and said that all the talk we've done over the last number of days, and all the players that could be potentially going, potentially coming in, we've been on a high from this, and not only does Jordan go and ruin Christmas, he's gone and gone one step further and said, no, we're not bringing in anyone either. So Jordan, the Grinch Jordan, thinks that we're not bringing in anyone. But no, Jordan, I'm only messing with you. No, we probably need a dose of reality as well on things. But but there's still about eight and a half days, or 8 point something of a days left. So anything could happen. Yeah. Sorry, Pete.
Yeah.
No. Sorry, we're going to say something, Jordan.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I think if you're looking at those players that were mentioned, the Wilson, Almiron, Trippier, I think out of those 3 players, Almiron would probably be the most likely, because the interest from Saudi is 100% serious. I was told by people in Saudi that there was a transfer agreement in place and it was down to the player. But by the sounds of it, the player doesn't want to go, which, to be fair, I understand. You look at the 2 divisions. Almiron's playing week in, week out at a Premier League club. Does he want to, at the age of 29, I know he's 30 next month, does he want to make that move to Saudi, which, without being disrespectful, at this moment in time, although they've got a lot of star players, is a very lower standard. So I think it's a big move to weigh up for Almiron, and I do think for him, and he's got a young family as well, it would be a move that you'd have to potentially look closer at in the summer rather than now. But the rest of them, Newcastle have insisted that Kieran Trippier and Callum Wilson aren't for sale. And to be fair to Newcastle, they've stuck to the word, because as the noises are coming out now, Bayern Munich are out of the race to sign them. They don't want to pay the money that Newcastle want, which I'm not sure an exact price tag, but realistically, if Bayern Munich want to sign out Kieran Trippier, they're going to have to put a lot of money down on the table for a player that is 34 at the end of the year. And you think from a business sense, that makes no sense for Bayern Munich to splash, just putting a fee out there, 20 million, for example, because that's probably the fee I would sell Trippier. I wouldn't go any less than 20 million. Look, I know FFP, etc. It would create a lot of room in that bracket to go out and potentially sign players this month. But Trippier is worth so much more than selling them at. He's been a transformative signing for this club. I can't speak highly enough of him. I think maybe over the last couple of months, fans have got on his back a little bit because of the mistakes, but you almost forget how influential this guy is. You look at the attacking stats. I think he's one of the most chance creators in the Premier League, not just as a fullback as well, but that's every single position. You take that on Newcastle's team. The second half of the season might be, if they wouldn't bring anyone in who could replicate that, would be potentially quite grim, because Kieran Trippier is the man that makes it tick for Newcastle. Bruno, of course, is the main man. Without Bruno, Newcastle will struggle. But Kieran Trippier down that right-hand side is absolutely instrumental. So I think January, to lose those type of players isn't the right thing to do. In the summer, if Bayern Munich want to come in the summer and pay 20 million for Kieran Trippier, it's a different conversation. But let's look at the season now. I think, Newcastle are at the Carabao Cup, they're at the Champions League, they're 10th in the Premier League, but there's still a lot to play for. I think they'll run their own 7 defeats in 8. You only have to change that slightly to start challenging the European places again. They're in the 4th round of the FA Cup with a chance to be Fulham, and then you go into the latter stages of that competition. There's a lot to play for, and to lose players and make knee-jerk decisions at this time of the season, I think is a risky strategy, unless taking Trippier out of this, unless they've got like-for-like replacements for Almiron and Wilson. It's just not worth doing it at this time of the season. But as I say, the summer is a completely different conversation.
It's a bit of a strange one. Like, I completely understand what you're saying with regards to whether the players will go or not, but I don't know. I just think the ease of which Newcastle United have kind of welcomed these bids and not flat out refused it. So I know you mentioned about there's been kind of a stance now from Newcastle United that Wilson and Trippier are not going, that they're not leaving the club in January. But it's taken them a long time to get to that point. Like, there's been quite a number of days where they've allowed this talk to manifest a little bit before they've kind of gone a blanket no. And it's, look, we've been kind of going through like a bit of a story mode here every show that we've done, because there's always been additional information going through. So we'll just kind of talk you through it. And this kind of just typifies it. Now, we'll start with the Trippier with regards to this. And that obviously we had yesterday from Luke Edwards that he fully expected a third bid to come in. And if it was around 20 million, which is what you said, Jordan, and what we said, boys, that we think Newcastle would take it. We had TalkSport this morning saying that Bayern were preparing a third bid. We had Craig Hope saying very similar, that they've not given up. And then you have Florian Plettenberg, who's been so kind of adamant that the deal's been continued to be looked at, saying that they're going to be withdrawing. Fab then jumps on the back of that, and another one, Christian Folk, is mentioned as well. That it could potentially be off, and it's just constant movement all the time. It's no, it's not. Yes, then there's a bid. No, it's not happening. Then there's another bid. Then there's going to be a third bid, and then no, it's not happening at all. And you just think to yourself, like, are Newcastle encouraging this a little bit more than maybe we let on to believe? Because if you really want a player to stay, like if I'm Kieran Trippier right now, I'm thinking to myself, should I go? Because they're not hammering it down. I don't know. Look, Chris, Daz, I'll come to you boys. Like, what do you think on that? Like, because if I'm a player, if I'm Kieran Trippier in that situation, and I'm in a situation where these rumours are going around and Newcastle United aren't hammering it down and saying, no, you're staying, you're one of our boys. As you rightly said, Jordan, he's been our talisman, he's been our main guy, our driving force, our creativity, everything. But they haven't shut it down. Like, is that going to make Kieran Trippier in his head think, should I go? Should I leave? Like, Daz, what do you think?
I think they have a number in their head for every player, apart from the 6 I mentioned yesterday, that untouchables. But and I suppose they have a value as well if a crazy bid ever came in. But and just seeing how far Bayern are willing to go, and I still think that third bid could come in, and it's all a game of brinkmanship as well. Where Newcastle thinking a third bid might come in, and they're thinking, no, we're not going to do anything here. It just has to play out. There's still over a week to go, so we'll just see how desperate Bayern are to bring in that right back. I credit. I said it to you guys today in our chat that I think it's good that Newcastle aren't being shown as pushovers, that they are willing to stand their ground, and so I still think that something could come in for Trippier. I wouldn't write it off yet.
What do you think, Chris? Like you, because to be fair, out of all of us, you've probably been the most adamant that this deal's not over. To be fair, Daz, I think as well. Like, I think you've both been like, you know what, this ain't over. Even when Jordan, even when like you guys, like yourselves at Newcastle World, like all the other journalists have said, no, he's staying. These boys have been like, you know what, this isn't over yet. And to be fair, since then, there's been a second bid, and since then, there's been rumours of a third. So, like, Chris, I'll come back to you. Like, are you still of that mindset? And do you think this is maybe affecting Kieran Trippier in terms of, you know, should he go, should he stay? Because they haven't really kind of closed it off properly.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? And, you know, I revert back, and I think I said this last night, Pete, I revert back to that Harry Kane deal. There was a lot of people saying Harry Kane's definitely not going to Bayern Munich, and, you know, Tottenham would never sell him and stuff like that. And I think there's too many variables as to why Newcastle would look to move Kieran Trippier on. Like, Kieran Trippier's a fantastic player, and Jordan's right. He's being massive miss. Of course he would. He's you could argue he's been our most important signing since the new owners came in. But I think, like I say, you know, the fact that he's 33, soon to be 34, we've already signed his replacement, and it's Bayern Munich. It's Bayern Munich, and I'm thinking, as a player, Kieran Trippier must be looking at that thinking, do you know what, I've got a fantastic chance there to go and play for one of the European giants in football. So I think Kieran Trippier would be interested, particularly because his mates, Eric Dyer and Harry Kane, are there. And also, you add into that, you know, the rumours that Kieran Trippier has been having a few personal problems, which I know we're not going to get into, obviously, but, you know, there's too many dots. I mean, I remember Liam during the takeover talking about joining the dots. There's too many things that point towards it. And you're right in what you say, Pete, that Newcastle could have shut this down really early. And the fact that they didn't, and the fact that Bayern came back and then allegedly came back again, that would suggest to me now, or it feels to me now, that we're kind of at a bit of a stalemate. And it's like, who's gonna give in first? Who's gonna crack? Because will it be Newcastle who kind of go, no, he's definitely staying, and seemingly that's what's happened, or will it be Bayern who have allegedly walked away from the deal, but will Bayern come back and go, okay, you said you wanted 20 million, is 20 million. The only thing I'd say is, the longer it goes on, the more likely it is that Kieran Trippier will stay at Newcastle, because I can't see Newcastle selling him, like, you know, at the 11th hour. I don't think that'll happen. But I think if there's a good 2 or 3 days to go, if Bayern came back with the money that Newcastle wanted, or close to, I think that's when Newcastle may look to do the deal. And I feel that way about a number of the players, to be honest, that have been linked with exits. And it's not us trying to push Kieran Trippier out the door. Like, nobody wants Kieran Trippier to leave, but unfortunately, the situation that we find ourselves in, we need to generate money. We need signings. We know that we need signings, and I don't know how close we are to the FFP restrictions. I don't know how much money we've got, you know, available to spend. But all I know is if we were to get, you know, 15, 18, 20 million for Kieran Trippier, that potentially is possibly 2 signings. And I think there'd be 2 signings that we really need. And the interesting thing as well, to wrap up on Kieran Trippier, I think he's the only player that we've been linked with selling who we don't automatically need a replacement. You've already got the replacement. Whereas the likes of Wilson, the likes of Miggy, you do look at it and you think, oh, it leaves us a bit shy, where we'd have to go out and find a like for like. Whereas with Kieran Trippier, even if we were to sell Kieran Trippier and not bring anyone in, God hope that doesn't happen. In terms of right back position, you know, we're okay. We would be all right. You know, we've got Tino Livramento, we've got Emil Kraft, Harrison Ashby, as we've spoken about, is on loan at Swansea. He'll come back in the summer. And worst come to worst, you could even play Jacob Murphy there, you know, when he comes back. So we do have cover. And that's kind of what makes me feel like Kieran Trippier is, I feel like it's still in the balance. I'm not disagreeing with Jordan, and it could be that Kieran Trippier stays. And if he does, fantastic. But will that 15, 18, 20 million be on the table in the summer? And that's what's making me think Newcastle may just go, do you know what? Maybe now is the time to let Kieran Trippier go. And I think Kieran Trippier will go. If we accepted the offer, Kieran Trippier is on that plane straight away, because it's Bayern Munich.
Sorry, Chris, there might be someone else on the plane as well. Lisa may be going over to Saudi to.
I was going to say,
who's in the chat?
Lisa Hall, okay, because Chris Hall will be coming after you.
ASM, it's terrible.
Oh, brilliant stuff. No longer Chris's favourite player. But look, there's been some interesting movements with a couple of players. Look, I want to get your thoughts on this, Jordan, just because this one rumbled to begin with, disappeared for a few days, and now seems to have just come back quite a bit. And it's with Jamal Lascelles, it's with the captain. Goopmeiners has put some tweets out. Again, we've done a little bit of a short little story on the back of it, saying they're very close to completing the transfer to Besiktas. They're trying to obviously look at an affordable price. Sports Witness got wind of that and put something similar out. And then Goopmeiners came back again and put something in the last hour or two saying that Lascelles is potentially trying to negotiate a free transfer to Besiktas. And as well, Yagiz Sublakoglu has said something similar. And he is the guy that initially kind of reported it from a Turkish perspective about Lascelles and the Besiktas bid. So I don't know how much you know about this, whether anything is legit from your side of things of Jamal Lascelles, but all of a sudden it just seems to have kind of come to life again today after it initially came at the back end of last week. Like, what's the story from what you know? And is there actually, could there be a chance that Jamal Lascelles, with 6 months left on his contract, leaves?
So I think we've spoken about 3 players there that have been linked with exits over the weekend. I actually think letting Jamal Lascelles go makes the least sense, because he's got 6 months left on his contract. So if you're going to sell him now, what would you get from a couple of million? You then leave yourself light at centre half. You've got no funds to go out and sign a centre half replacement, because we're talking about Newcastle needing a new centre half without saying that Jamal Lascelles is going to go. So I'm thinking unless the player really, really pushes to go, because as I've seen under Eddie Howe and even last window, last January, that Eddie Howe respected the wishes of Chris Wood and John Joe Shelby to leave. But unless Jamal Lascelles wants to go, I don't see how that happens. I haven't heard anything about Jamal Lascelles being unhappy or wanting to leave Newcastle. I think he's quite happy from what I understand to stick around, and he's probably not going to get as much football in the second half of the season with Sven Botman being back. But I think he's shown that he's got a place within this current squad, and I actually think he's got more chance of signing a new contract or being offering new terms before the end of the season than he is to leave this month. Again, I'm not privy to sort of the reports in Turkey. They obviously have a different spin than what I do. But from looking at it from my point of view, I just don't see how Jamal Lascelles goes. As I say, it doesn't really make sense that the light at centre half anyway. So to lose him and then not be able to replace him, I just don't see how that makes sense. Eddie Howe would not want to allow that. But I say the only caveat I've got to that is unless the player absolutely wants to go. But is Turkey, without being disrespectful, is Turkey that much of a lucrative move? I suppose it probably can do in terms of wages, but I do think he's got a lot more to offer. Probably, if not with Newcastle in the Premier League, potentially sticking around the Premier League and for going back to Nottingham Forest, for example. So, I'm without looking at the Turkey reports too much, I just don't think it makes sense for him to go this month. I really don't.
It's an interesting one. Like, it's interesting the fact that you think he could potentially get a new deal, because there's a lot of fans that are adamant that he wouldn't get a new deal. And look, we've talked about it on our channel about looking at a new right-sided centre back coming in as being certainly a competition, and maybe even taking over the reins of Fabian Schär at that point. I don't see Jamal Lascelles doing that.
No.
But that's where I think a lot of Newcastle fans are. I think there's a chance that maybe he could just leave and go on a 3. Boys, I'll come to you. Is that maybe why these links are coming about. Can you see Jordan thinks he might well stay, but Gaz, can you see Jamal Lascelles potentially going in this month? Because not that the fact that we need to raise funds, but just the fact that actually, he's only got 6 months left on his contract. He might well know in his mind he might not have a future at the club. Is he looking at 30 years old, trying to get the best deal he possibly can?
Well, before he came into the team, and in as a replacement for when Botman was out, I thought he was gone after his contract. Then he came in, and he did enough to deserve an extended contract because he did such a good job, and Eddie was getting more out of him than we ever seen for a long time. Then when this is chopping and changing. Then when the Besiktas offer was on the table and we were getting some money, I was there. Yes, sell if we're getting a couple of million for him. At least we can put that toward unlock FFP a bit. But now the talk of going for free, forget it. We might as well keep him for the rest of the season and then make a decision on him. But if we're talking about free and then the chat is aligned on that, it makes zero sense. But you're right for what we've been talking about, centre backs to come in the summer and stuff as well. But yeah, the cost a pretty penny as well, and we do leave ourselves a bit short. And yeah, I would align what George is saying there. Does it really make sense, depending on the amount we might get?
Chris, would you give him a new contract?
Do you know what? Luckily enough for Jamal Lascelles, it could. I don't think it's beyond the realms that he does get a new contract. Obviously, he's one of the leadership group that we often speak about. I think Jamal Lascelles, if the offer is Besiktas, as Jordan said, like it's not as lucrative as maybe the offer of some other clubs. It would have to be on reduced terms, and I kind of feel that he's reasonably fortunate in that we've got a lot of other players that are out of contract, and let's be honest, we know that Newcastle need a big overhaul. We've not been able to kind of shift out and bring in as many players as we kind of liked or hoped, and that's mainly down to FFP. And we can't just sell like 12 players in the summer and bring in 12 players. Like, it just doesn't work like that. So it could be that Jamal Lascelles is kept on purely from like a squad point of view. And it wouldn't surprise me greatly, as I say, if his salary was reduced, in line to kind of keep him here for the year as a potential second, third choice right centre back. It does make sense. He could kind of be the new Paul Dummett, you know what I mean? A player who won't see a lot of football, but who is there as a steady Eddie and someone who can come in and do a job. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that. The only way I see Jamal Lascelles leaving this window is if we get an offer of say 2 or 3 million. But how likely is that? And will Jamal Lascelles, as Jordan says, be itching to jump ship? I don't know. But yeah, I could see him staying. And yeah, thinking about it on reflection, and I'm sure we'll get to it when we do Squad Game 3, which we keep talking about. But when we get to that, it could be that we end up saying, do you know what, maybe it is worth keeping someone like Jamal Lascelles round. We know he commands respect within the dressing room, so there'd be worse players to keep round than Jamal Lascelles, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with the fact that it's probably doesn't seem the most likely of deals. Seems it will only leave us with 2 kind of full first choice centre backs, really. And we've already touched on Botman and Shaw and Botman potential injury and all the rest of it. So it doesn't make as much sense. But what it does signal to me, if these talks are genuine, what it signals to me is actually that Newcastle are trying to raise money somewhere. And they're looking at the best way that they can raise money. And I do think the way in which we are right now, if they can raise money, and I know you boys and people in the chat have said it just makes sense that we're not getting a fee for him, but he's only got 6 months left on his contract. He's 30. We've talked about it before with Javi Manquillo, who went on a free. Yeah. It's not necessarily about the transfer fee. The wages can allow movement in a transfer too, because it could be, because it's clear in Jordan, like, it is clear that Newcastle United, if we are going to go and sign somebody, it's that we're ideally looking for a loan move or a loan with an obligation or with a view to buy. So, if we need the wages up front, we've already gained 30-40 grand a week in Manquillo going on a free to put towards that. It may well be that's the kind of the way to go down with Jamal Lascelles. I think he's on 50-60 grand a week. That's then recouping over 100 grand a week's potentially worth of wages that could go to potentially a loan signing. But just to rewind slightly, that is the case, isn't it? That Newcastle United, from what you know, are looking at that loan with a view to buy, or just a straight out loan.
Yeah, so I use an example. I think ideally the player that was linked relentlessly was Calvin Phillips. And I think in an ideal world, Newcastle wanted to just do that as a straight loan with either a zero loan fee or a minimal loan fee. And that's why they obviously didn't do the deal, because Man City were demanding, I think it was around £7 million in a loan fee for a player, which I would have taken Calvin Phillips. I think he's a very good player on his day. Just hasn't quite fitted at Manchester City. But in terms of his injury record as well, let's not forget that he's had a poor injury record even at Leeds. Was injured at the start of his Manchester City career. So if you're going to pay that amount of money for a player for, you say, 15 games, you might not even give you 15 games, because he could break. He's maybe likely to break down before then, because of that injury record. So yeah, to go back to the point, Pete, about the loans. As I say, I think my understanding is that if Newcastle want to sign a player this month, it has to be done very, very cleverly, where the club that to sign a player from, it's a minimal fee up front, or they've got to sell a player to then go out and sign one. So yeah, loans were the most likely and probably still are the most likely. But I think in terms of Premier League loans, I touched upon it a few weeks ago, that there's no Premier League teams out there wanting to do Newcastle favours, and even across the continent as well, like see European teams, there probably is players out there, but yeah, it's got to be done. It's got to be done cleverly in many ways. So I do think now, although there's been a lot of noise in the last few days, I do think the summer is where Newcastle are looking to, in many ways, do a squad overhaul where they get the seller money, the Adidas money, all the sponsorship deals that they've done behind the scenes. You then potentially sell players in the summer where you can go out and you've got months to replace them. So at this moment in time, I think the January transfer window in terms of incomings is very unlikely, and the summer is the one where Newcastle will really look to go and do business. But on the flip side of that as well, I've said this, I say this many times, I always play down Newcastle doing business and they somehow find a way to go out and sign a player. So I'm not saying that they won't do it, but as the message has been throughout the January transfer window, it is very, very likely, unless there is a club out there that potentially willing to do them a favour with a very small fee up front, whether that be a loan or a permanent deal. Jordan,
I have a question for you, right? You're going to be probably in a press conference with Eddie Howe in the next day or so. And I know you can't ask the questions we want to ask him. He won't answer anyway. But I'm going to ask you a different question. Nice. Do you think we will sell someone, and if so, who? This is your opinion. And if we sell someone, who do you think we would buy? So it's a double question. It's your opinion, not necessarily any inside information.
Yeah, it's a difficult question. I wish Eddie Howe was sitting here.
We do too.
Alongside you.
Yeah. So, sorry, what was the first part of the question again?
He's trying to wriggle out of it now.
Oh, sorry, I've got it now. Kind of process.
Can I answer that? Is the next bit he'll do? Can I answer that?
Do I think anyone will be sold? No, I don't. But if there is someone I think will be sold, I think it'll be Almiron. If someone wants to be sold out, I think they'll bring in. I can't even take a punt of that. You've seen the names linked out there. I haven't heard anything. I mean, Morgan Gibbs-White's been the one that's been linked quite heavily. Personally, I've heard nothing on that situation, so I can't sit here and say that he is a a target. But what I would say from my own personal point of view is I think having watched him for Nottingham Forest against Newcastle on Boxing Day, he would look very, very good in Newcastle's team. And I suppose in many ways, if you look at the Anthony Gordon deal last January, Everton FFP issues, Newcastle looking at opportunities, and you know that a lot of fingers do point towards Morgan Gibbs White. So look, maybe that's one to look out. But yeah, my own personal opinion is I don't think Newcastle will sell anyone, which means that it's very unlikely that anyone will come in.
We don't believe you. That's his professional hat on. That's his professional hat on. We don't believe you. All jokes aside. But no, it's really interesting that you've touched on Miguel Almiron. I'll come to it really, really quickly. I don't want to spend too long on it. You know, he's been the one that's been talked about, certainly in the last few days. You've kind of mentioned it as well, that he's been attracting interest, not just from Al-Shabaab, but also Ali as well, where Alan St. Maximin currently plays for. And interestingly, and we touched on it a little bit last night as well, that there was talk of a kind of a sell-on fee as well, anywhere between 20 and 25 million. So with that in mind, if we were to sell Alan St. Actually, he's already gone. I've got him on the break now. Chris, it's your Lisa's fault. She brought Alan.
I know. I'll tell her.
I'm joking. But with Miguel Almiron, what do you think would be, bearing in mind we've got that release clause or sell-on clause in the back of our minds, what do you think would be the right fee for Newcastle United? So, to sell him? Yeah,
so I think I would probably vouch for 30 million, to be honest. I think it's high, but you look at some of the. It's always difficult because any deal that Newcastle do with a Saudi club, PIF linked or not, is always going to be scrutinised. But you look at some of the fees in the summer where players going to Saudi, there was some high fees in there. And actually, one of the lower fees was Alan St. Maximin, which I think was a reported £23 million, which fair market value. I actually thought Newcastle probably should have got a little bit more for Alan St. Maximin. So yeah, I'm gonna stick me neck out and say I think Almiron should be, if he's going to go to Saudi, should be in the region around £30 million. Because this is a player that scored, okay, it was probably a purple patch for large parts, but he scored 11 goals last season. He's been hit and miss this season, but he still scored 5 goals. I think you look at it's really difficult these days because the transfer market is so inflated, and you get some really silly price tags. Like the one I think of is in terms of a Premier League winger, and I find a staggering fee is Anthony at Manchester United. Honestly, who thought he was worth? Was it £90 million or something along the? I don't think the fee off the top of my head. Now, hopefully someone correct us here, but it was a lot of money for a player that is totally, in many ways, bang average. And I actually think Almiron is an upgrade on Anthony. So yeah, I'm waffling here. I've got a real habit of waffling. Ever since I set up Geordie Journals, I just had a real habit of waffling, and I'm doing it again now. So yeah, I would say 30 million. I think that fee would be scrutinised by lots of people, but I think it's a fair market. I think it's a fair market value, and a lot of people talk about that. But I think that fee would be, fairly reasonable, 25-30 million.
Yeah. It would work out for 30 million. Works out anywhere around 30 million. You're looking at sort of like 23-24 million that we would recoup from that, which is good money considering what we paid for him. And we said the same, didn't we? We said around sort of the 30 million mark, we kind of snap our hands off at that, and it would allow us to monetization and all the rest of it. It would allow us to do a little bit of business later on in the window. But it was I just wanted to touch on that one just because it is an interesting conversation. Another one, and you've already touched on Morgan Gibbs White. Another one as well. There was another link additional link to a player that we've talked about before that came out today. And a friend of the channel, Jack Talbot, came out and put this piece out for transfer.com. The Everton apparently are open to Onana's departure in this window, looking at a fee around sort of 60 million to kind of get his services. That sort of deal would rely on Miguel Almiron making the move. But like, what are your thoughts, Jordan, on Amadou Onana? Not whether he's going to come in or not, or whether there's been any links. Feel free to mention that. But what are your thoughts on him potentially coming in and adding to this current midfield?
Yeah, Newcastle, I think they've been watching him ever since he arrived at Everton. But I think that's the £60 million mentioned there, that fee, is probably a realistic fee that Everton would demand, because you think about it, I think they signed him for 33 million. So you think about in the 80 months he's been at Everton, they'll feel they've developed him and demand a higher fee. I like him. I think, when I watch Everton, I think he's one of those players that stand out. And I do think, for all Bruno is great and out in the number 6 position, as we call it, I do think they're probably lacking a midfield that gives a little bit of bite in there, as I've seen in probably recent weeks. Again, Bruno, and this is no knock on Bruno, he is absolutely magnificent, but we've seen in recent weeks Newcastle's midfield be teared open in many ways, particularly against, I think, about the 2 games over Christmas, the Luton Town game and Nottingham Forest, how easy it was to bypass that midfield. I do think they're missing a real, that midfield that gives a little bit of bite, and I think Onana gives you that. So I wouldn't be against that move, but the one thing that I want to see Newcastle do more of is Eddie Howe has a habit of going for Premier League proven players, where you look at Newcastle's 3 best players, they've all arrived from European clubs, your Isaks, your Botman and Brunos. I want to see Newcastle go out in Europe and actually scout the market and do what they've done at the start, where they went and signed these players. From a broad, okay, Isak was 60 million, but to be fair, he's proven to be worth that. But then you've got your Brunos and Botmans, who are Bruno is already world class. Botman is on his way to being world class. They picked them up. They picked them up for fairly relative fees. So can they go and get, for example, Onana, who is playing in Europe already, a similar type player? I would like Newcastle to be a little bit more creative in that sense, where they go and actually sign players from Europe, because I do think they've had a real habit of sticking to Premier League proven players, which has served them well to a point. But as I say, the 3 players I named there, there's lots of potential in the European market, and I do feel like they've got to go out there and scout the market a little bit better outside of the Premier League.
You've said something that we talked about last night, and I'm not sure, I can't remember who it was, Daz or Chris, that you mentioned it about the fact, I think someone else had mentioned it in the chat as well, about the fact that we always tend to look at English players or English-based players, and we're not kind of looking too far into Europe. Now, like Chris, I know you know a little bit about Amadou Onana. We talked about him before. We talked about him last night as well. But are you with the same mindset of Jordan, that you'd want to see us kind of expand into Europe and have a look at those sort of other players, like Jordan said, like the likes of Bruno and Botman and Isak?
Yeah, I think so, and I hope that's kind of happening, and that maybe we're just waiting for the right time. I mean, we've spoke about this extensively, haven't we? Because we talk about our stellar signings, and funnily enough, our stellar players, and funnily enough, they happen to be Isak, Botman, and Bruno, who we all got from Europe. And I don't think that's any coincidence. You could argue Kieran Trippier as well. Obviously, we got him from Atletico Madrid. So, we have a pretty good success rate. But I think I mentioned this last night, actually, when we were talking about the South American players. And, Daz, you were saying you were frustrated that, we weren't kind of taking a gamble on a few players. And I do genuinely think that Eddie Howe is just going for his tried and tested at the moment, probably because, he feels like he's under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of scrutiny on him, given, how things have gone this season. And it wouldn't surprise me if, we are looking in the, that Premier League experience market, English market, so that players can come in and hopefully adapt as quickly as possible. I don't think it's any coincidence, that we've brought in the likes of Dan Burn, the likes of Nick Pope, the likes of Matty Target, because the players who are Premier League experienced, and there's not going to be, like a language barrier. There's not going to be, any hiccups about them settling, or, the family not being able to kind of come over with them and stuff like that. So I do think it's been carefully structured signings, but I think as time goes on and as the squad develops and as the quality and the standard of our squad lifts, I think then we will start taking more risks. Maybe once, God forbid, maybe once we get our first trophy under our belts, or when we're consistently in that top 4, top 6, I think that's when we'll start taking a few more gambles, like other clubs do, because we see the likes of Chelsea do it every window. The sign in there, this South American kid from somewhere for 12, 15 million, and we're all going, oh, I should do that. And Benfica are renowned for it, Dortmund do it. But I just feel like we're not quite there yet to be able to do that. But I think that will be the plan. And we've kind of seen it already, haven't we, with Alfie Harrison? Obviously, we're only dipping our toe in and we're not spending loads and loads of money. But I think Eddie Howe is probably just thinking, do you know what, I need players who are going to come in and make an instant impact. And I don't think it's any on those Premier League players who are experienced, know the league, and will settle pretty quickly.
Yeah, we have been linked with a few of the younger European players. A player that Tottenham are really looking into, but we're also looking into as well, Antonio Nusa. I think he's Club Bruges. It is Club Bruges, in fact. Peter O'Rourke mentioned it, that actually we're in the race for him. I think Tottenham are slightly ahead, but he's meant to be a very, very talented player that we've been after. Whether we get him or not remains to be seen. And of course, I think, Chris, you put this in the chat, but Get French Football mentioned about Desiree Doué, who we have talked about on Full Loaded Transfer Show before in the summer and previously. He's doing some fantastic stuff over at Run in the French league. So we are looking at those players, but it's those players that we want to come in and be able to action the first team instantly. And you want those ready-made players like you, Bruno, you're 24, 25-year-olds that have got experience and ready to kind of fly. That's for sure. But just one last thing, Jordan, just really quickly, before, because I think there's a few questions in the chat. I'm sure.
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
I just want to one last thing before we go to quick fire questions, because I know you've got to shoot soon. And there is 324 in the chat, so if you haven't already, make sure you click the like, subscribe, all that housekeeping good stuff. If you just joined the show, thank you for watching, and it's been a great show, great chat, brilliant to have Jordan back on, and it's great to chew the fat with yourself, mate. That is for sure. One last thing from me, with regards to just a little question, there was a little update. Greg Cordell put the tweet out the other day, and obviously it's been captured now off the back of that, is that sort of a slight shift in ownership in percentages. It looks like Amanda Staveley has dropped kind of 4%, and the Rubin brothers, or Jamie Rubin, RB Sports and Media, have taken on that sort of responsibility, have taken on those additional 4%. In your mind, when you kind of saw that come about, what was your initial thoughts on that? Is it significant in any way? There's Newcastle fans that are saying Amanda Staveley, she could be leaving, she could be on her way. What have you made of that move?
Yeah, so when we sat down with Darren Eells a few weeks ago, it was hinted at that Amanda Staveley had dropped her stake, and then obviously the numbers finally came out, which I think was a few days ago now. It changes nothing, to be honest. It's storming a teacup, the term I would use. It doesn't impact Newcastle United in any way. It just means that the Rubens have been putting in essentially more money than Amanda Staveley, and obviously the Saudis is the 80% are putting in the majority. So it's just a reflection of sort of where the funds are coming from. It doesn't change a lot at all. Amanda Staveley and Mila Gadusi are still have the contract to run the football club. Nothing has changed. I think in many ways it's not a surprise to say the stake dropped, because Amanda and Miadad's stake or their wealth they simply can't match the public investment fund of Saudi Arabia and the Reuben brothers. So it's just reflective of that situation. It doesn't change anything. Amanda and Miadad are still, as I say, and running the football club and will continue to do so for many, many years.
You could say they're not fully loaded.
Right. Any questions, Daz? Quick 5 questions
before
you head on.
Let's go, because I know Jordan has to. So yeah, there's 2 questions on the same topic about Alfie Harrison, who's looking like he's going to join Newcastle. So Jordan, do you know much about him? Will he be one for the future? Will he get some game time, I suppose, if you always?
Yeah, I mean, I first seen a photo of him yesterday, and he's at Erling Haaland. Yeah, he's Erling Haaland spitting double, isn't he? The same haircut. Apparently, there's been a couple of comparisons to the way they play. Although Alfie Harrison is a centre midfielder, I think he's only played once at under 21s level. Played obviously a lot of these games at under 18s. I think with the way City's academy structure works, because they've got so many good players at certain age groups, I wouldn't take anything away from Alfie Harrison only appearing once under 21s. I think if you put him in Newcastle United's under 21s, you'd probably be by far one of the better players. So I think it's a really good move. Again, I'm going off what everyone else has seen. To be honest, the highlights reel, it's great. You can make anyone look great on a highlights reel, but it does seem like this lad has got genuine potential. And you think about this injury situation this season, Lewis Miley getting the chance, taking it as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Alfie Harrison in the squad in the second half of the season at some point, depending on how the injury situation plays out. But it's a really positive move, because we talk about FFP and PSR. One way of getting around it is building a strong academy, and eventually, even if players don't make it into the Newcastle United's first team, you can still sell them for a couple of million to a championship club or a club abroad. So it's about building that. And I think, to be fair, Newcastle has been a real focus on that since the owners came in. You think about the summer they strengthened the under 18s quite a lot. They signed the Leo Sahar from Wolves. There was then Travis Hearns from Shrewsbury. There's a guy, I'm trying to think of his name now, the lad who arrived from Birmingham.
Sunsui?
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah.
And even beyond that as well, Newcastle was signing players from other clubs for the under 15s and 16s as well. So there's been a real drive behind the scenes to really improve that academy. And to get someone like Alfie Harrison, and again, I haven't seen him play, but look from the outside looking in, it looks like a really positive move. And it's been mentioned that he's been given a clear pathway to the first team. So Newcastle already clearly rate him highly, and as I say, I wouldn't be surprised if the injuries continue, that he could actually find himself on the bench or potentially even the start 11 at some point before the end of the season, if not sort of in the near future as well.
If only there's a highlights reel of our charity game, Jordan. But next question from Tom, another good question, and one I know you had on your list as well, Pete, is about Dubravka. There was an article from Mark Douglas about Dubravka today. But do you think he's going to leave us, Jordan? Probably, obviously not in January, but the summer.
Yeah, I mean, Dubravka's agents came out and said that he will consider his future in the summer. But Newcastle, I think it's mentioned that article actually by Mark Douglas, the fact that Mark Gillespie and Loris Karius are both out of contract in the summer, so you're then left with 2 senior goalkeepers in Nick Pope and Martin Dubravka. So then there would probably be an onus on Newcastle to go out and sign a goalkeeper in the summer. It's completely different. We could talk about signing the goalkeeper another night. I think I've mentioned on the show previously that, as for great as Nick Pope is, brilliant, I think Newcastle probably do need to go and sign a goalkeeper in the near future. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, from Martin Dubravka's point of view, he's 35 now. He's clearly still feels he can be a number one elsewhere. So if that opportunity arises, because Martin Dubravka's position at Newcastle is settled now, he's playing the team at the minute. But once Nick Pope comes back in, he's back to number 2. And then if they were to sign another goalkeeper in the summer, he's down to number 3. So it's no surprise. It's no surprise at all. I think he's still got ambitions to be a number 1 elsewhere. So if he gets an opportunity, there might be a conversation to have. But it's got to be right for Newcastle. They can't leave themselves light, which they potentially could do. As I say, with Gillespie and Karius both out of contract in the summer.
Two questions I'll go for. Right, Ogie asked the question, Jordan, why does Howe continue to play Byrne over Hall and Tino?
Yeah, it's every time the team sheet comes out on at 2 o'clock for a 3 o'clock kickoff or whatever, an hour before, you always say the questions, why isn't Tino playing? And to be fair, it's I don't blame people for asking that question, because Tino Livramento, has he had a bad game since he's came to the football club? Maybe one, but found himself really, really unlucky to come straight out that start 11. But I think there's a lot of trust there with Byrne. We talked about that leadership group that was mentioned earlier. Dan Burns, in that big character behind the scenes, was a big way. It was a big player in the way Newcastle played last season, in terms of he plays a left back, but he sort of tucked in as a 3-man defence, and Kieran Trippier pushed up. I think Newcastle have been found out a little bit that season. Found out a little bit this season. I think Burns maybe sort of struggled as a result of that. But I would be in the camp that Tino should play at left back. But I do think, I know a lot of fans like to criticise Byrne, but I wouldn't criticise Dan Byrne at all. I think for the sign he's been very, very good. Just you think about in the summer, Newcastle had actually had an opportunity to go out and sign an out-and-out left back. They did that with Lewis Hall, but unfortunately he's nowhere near. So at this moment in time, so Dan Burns continued. Tino has emerged as a sort of a left back. I think I'd imagine maybe in the next couple of months we might see Tino come back in. We'll see how that happens.
Jordan, I know you have to go, so I'm going to shorten this question down to one player. Jeff Hendrick. Are we going to be still stuck with Jeff Hendrick come the end of this January window?
He's at Sheffield United Sheffield Wednesday on loan, still there for the season. So I think he's out of contract in the summer, Jeff Hendrick. So we'll be waving bye to him then. Does Matt Ritchie get a new contract?
Surely not.
No,
I don't think so.
As much as we like him and respect him.
Yeah. You've got. I respect him totally for what he's done, but when he plays in matches, he looks so off it now. I mean, you look at Newcastle have had injuries this season, and Matt Ritchie's been one of few attacking options off the bench, and Howe's had a real resistance to bring him on. So if you've got a player there that you don't want to play, albeit he's a great leader behind the scenes, it's probably not worth keeping him. So maybe that the summer will be the end for both of those players. Obviously, Matt Ritchie, incredible servant. Jeff Hendrick, he's had a tough time on Tyneside. Hasn't lived up to the expectation, if you like, when he arrived on a free transfer from Burnley. He had a brief spell under Steve Bruce, but couldn't make any career under Eddie Howe. And the same goes for Isaac Hayden as well. Obviously, he's got a couple of years left on his contract, but a lot of players have been saying, a lot of fans have been saying, can Isaac Hayden do a job as a number 6 in this Newcastle team? No, he can't. He's one of them players that Eddie Howe is as well as banished from his plans.
Yeah. Right, Jordan, I know you've got to go. I know you're going to football. You're getting ready. You're doing your pre-charity game matching, because we're going to need you. We're going to need you come March, mate. That's for sure. But look, massive thanks to having you on. If you're not already, people in the chat, make sure you get onto Geordie Journos. Make sure you click that subscribe button on YouTube and check out their fantastic content. Jordan, Dom, and Liam, brilliant guys. Mate, really appreciate it.
Sorry, Pete. The link, it's hyperlinked in the title as well. So if you watching this back, click on the hyperlink. You'll go straight into Geordie Journos. Give them a subscribe and check out the content. They'll be straight after the press conference. The lads be having their own little conversation about it. So always very interesting.
Enjoy your football, mate.
Yeah, cheers, lads. Good to be back on. Apologies that I've waffled again for an hour, but no, it's great to be back on. Hopefully it'll not be too long until the next one.
Definitely. You take
Cheers,
care,
Jordan.
Take care, Jordan.
Take
See you
care.
later, mate.
Right.
Tell Eddie we said hi.
Right, okay.
See you later, mate. Oh, brilliant stuff. Great to have Jordan on. Brilliant stuff tonight, and great perspective. Like we've said before, isn't always going to tell us what we want to hear, but he will know from the inside stuff some information with regards to how things are moving. So, interesting chat, boys. That's for sure. But I wanted to come to something else. I want to go back to this Miguel Almiron situation because there's been a little update from Fraser Gillen. Miguel Almiron to Saudi not done as Al Shabab still needs to convince unsure winger of move. And we had a conversation on this just before we went on air, and it was interesting because it's been dubbed that he's staying. Miguel Almiron staying. He's not going anywhere. He's staying at Newcastle. He doesn't want to leave. But interesting, someone put in the chat before, I think it might have been last night, that, or no, in fact, I think I said to you boys, I saw it on social media actually, that someone put, well, Alan St-Maximin didn't want to leave, but he's now in Saudi. Do you think there could be a deal agreed and done before the week is out? Before we hit Friday, I know it's Thursday tomorrow, do you believe a deal could potentially be done for Miguel Almiron? I'm putting it out there, boys. I'm putting it out there because it doesn't seem to be going away for me. I don't know. I want to get your thoughts on it. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think they need to get Manquillo back to come back and translate it for him, and just like because he doesn't know what's happening. He's there. He's going, Manquillo, what's happening? Someone just needs to tell him that we've accepted the bid. Good luck, Miggy. Thanks for everything. It's time to go. And look at I'm sure Alan St-Maximin could try and convince him as well that the move to Saudi is how it's gone for him. It's gone well, so why not?
Oh, I love it. Chris, come on, talk to me. Daz has had his opinion on the Miggy situation. What are you thinking? Are you thinking, is there still a deal to be done? Is it that he's staying because he said he wants to stay, or is there some more movement you're expecting between now and maybe the weekend?
I think, like I said earlier, that the nearer it gets to the end of the transfer window, I think the more likelihood is that no one will leave. But if you're talking Friday, Pete, I think there's certainly a possibility. And let's be honest, like money talks. I was saying before we came on air, wasn't I, that if Miggy Almiron's say on 70-80 grand a week, and then Newcastle accept a deal, and I know if you're a player and you know that your club are willing to kind of let you go, and who knows whether there'll be any kind of settlement in terms of Newcastle letting them go, I don't know. But if somebody comes in and they really want you and they go, oh yeah, we'll double your wages, or we'll double and a bit your wages. Like, I think that changes things. I really, really do. And as I say, if you find out that the club you play for are kind of willing to trade you in, like willing to let you go, I think that does change things. And maybe once, Miggy's had kind of discussions with his family, his friends, his agents, he may feel differently about it. But I think because it's a Saudi club and because there'll be big money on offer, I do think there is still potential for it. And I'm sure that Newcastle would be very interested in doing the deal as well, because it would definitely open some options for us, wouldn't it? It would definitely open the door for us to maybe bring in one or two. And one or two that we would definitely need at that point, because I think if we sold Miggy, it's like the bare minimum's got to be two players, because we're already saying we desperately need one as it is. So if one goes, we surely need two.
Yeah.
Hang on. What happened to being ruthless? We have to, if the bid is accepted, we have to just make it straight to him that, look, we want you to go. We have to be a bit ruthless. We know he's been great for us last season. Other times he's been hit and miss. Sometimes when we challenged him, when I've challenged him, he's come and proved me wrong time and time again. But for the future, Ruthless, this is the way it's going to be if you are staying, and we're going to look to sell you again in the summer. So if you're not going to go now,
I think the only problem, Daz, I suppose, is the fact that if Miggy turns around and goes, well, I don't want to go, or I want to go to Spain, or I want to go to Germany, or I want to go to Italy, so I'll bide my time. I mean, the other disadvantage that Newcastle have as well is the fact that he'll go, well, I'm not going, and I know you can't play anyone else there, so I'll just carry on playing. Because if we had like 2 or 3 right wingers, I'd be like, yeah, great. Yeah. You know, he'd probably be more inclined to go. But the fact that he probably knows he'll probably be in the squad on Saturday, and he knows he'll probably play against Villa because we haven't got anybody else. So I suppose that makes it slightly more difficult. But I agree, Daz, we do need to be ruthless, and I do hope that Miggy kind of takes that on board, and basically, if Newcastle are willing to let him go, that he does.
Yeah. No, I agree. I've been saying it for weeks. Ruthless approach sometimes needs to be had, and it looks like, certainly from what we've seen at the back end of this window, that there is a more ruthless approach starting to happen at Newcastle United, and it's clear with all the players that have been linked. We are looking at a ruthless approach. We are looking at getting rid of some players that we can benefit from, and why not? I don't think that deal's dead. I think there is a way in which they can win round Miguel Almiron in terms of taking the deal. If you offered Miguel Almiron a 2-year contract, he's still able at 32 years old to come back and maybe go and play in Spain and go and play somewhere that he wants to go and play. Ideally, he'd want to go there now, but I don't think anyone's paying the fee that Newcastle United want for him at this stage. He's only just signed a contract last season. And so he's still got a number of years. I think it's 2026. I think his contract runs out. So he's still got a period of time left at the club. So it's not like he's got 1 year left on his contract in the summer like Callum Wilson. It's a completely different situation. And so for us, we need to maximise how we get rid of him and when, whether it's now or the summer. We need to maximise that. And I still think, honestly, boys, if he doesn't go in this window, he goes to Saudi in the summer. I don't think any other team are going to pay 30 million for him. They're not. No. But Newcastle United, for me, are trying to maximise now the amount of money that they get for him, because they can still command a decent fee. I think if you get into the summer, that fee maybe comes down to 25 million, especially if he doesn't have a good second half of the season. It could go the other way and he could score 6-7 goals, end up on a decent tally, which I think if you get 6 and 7 goals is on double figures again, and it looks rosy. We get 30 million, everyone's happy. But I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one. But I wanted to bring another player to you because actually another link came from the NUFC blog, and it's Darren Koopmeiners at Atalanta. There's apparently reports in Italy that Newcastle have made an inquiry for him. Obviously, we know at Atalanta that there has been rumours of Edison as well. So looking at his midfield partner now, you know, the one thing about both of those players, they're extremely good on the ball. Koopmeiners in his progressive passes and the way he is on the ball, likes to progress the ball forward, likes to create moments in attack. He seems like a decent player, and they've obviously valued him around 45 million euros, which you're looking at around the sort of 40 million mark to get him. These links are not going away, boys. We're still being linked to a number of players, all in positions that we're looking at signing. I'm not saying that any of these players are going to walk through the door. Koopmeiners, I'm not saying he's going to walk through the door. It's only the first tentative link that we've had of him. But again, it's a quality player that's being linked with Newcastle United. So, look, this is why I keep thinking what I'm thinking. But just on all these links and everything that's going on, because obviously we asked Jordan a lot of these questions about the likes of Lascelles and the update on Trippier, the update on sort of Miguel Almiron. What are your overriding thoughts about this all? Like, now we're on sort of day 5 or 6 of what we've been doing of this over the last sort of week or so. Where, Chris, I'll come to you. Where is your mind now with regards to this window? With what, a week ago.
Fucking Godfrey. It was it was struggling before the show, but yeah, Ben Godfrey. I'm going to get to Ben Godfrey later if I get a chance. But no, I think I don't know, Pete. I genuinely don't know, and I think Jordan hit the nail on the head, didn't he, when he said, this is my opinion kind of thing. This is what I believe. But then knowing Newcastle, they could just blow that all out the water. This is the thing, not just with our ownership, but also just the fact of Newcastle as a club. Like, we always kind of do the unexpected. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But do you know what? I'm still going to keep the faith, and I do firmly believe that we will bring someone in, because I think we need to. And I try and look at it from the owner's perspective. If I was PIF, or if I was Amanda Staveley and Meardad, or Darren Eells or Dan Ashworth, I'd be looking at this and thinking, do you know what? There's still a fantastic opportunity for us to have a decent season. But as I reiterated a couple of weeks back, Eddie Howe needs help. Eddie Howe needs players now, and we can still rescue this season. We can still finish the season pretty strongly. We're still in the FA Cup. This is being recorded on Wednesday the 24th. We are still in the FA Cup. That may change on Monday when we do another transfer show. But yeah, we're still in the FA Cup. We can still finish high in the Premier League. I think top 7 is still very, very, very much on. I think we can still definitely do that. Please be good. There's normally bad breaking news. Come on, please be good breaking news.
Christian Falk has just put out a tweet in the last few minutes, and this is it depends on how you see it. It's basically saying that the pursuit from Bayern Munich is over. They're not going for Kieran Trippier, and this has come from Christian Freund, the head of sports at Bayern Munich. They've said, the topic of Kieran Trippier is over. We only do what we are 100% convinced of. And they were the words from him. Christian Falk has just put that out there. So from what we're hearing right now, the deal is off. It's not happening. Everything that we've talked about on the show tonight in terms of the deal being off as we worked into this afternoon, seems like it's come to fruition in that it's not going ahead. And Christian Falk has just put that out there. He's normally been bang on the money. He was one of the first ones to report it, the deal having some movement and some legs on the back of that. And I hate to be the one to put breaking news and it not be transfer window related coming our way. But for a lot, like I said, it depends on how you see it, because a lot of Newcastle fans will be very, 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 very happy with that. That news saying that that Trippier was staying, and Lee Ryder's just put the same, just quoted the same tweet from Christian Freund. So it looks like it's legit.
Just a couple of things. I'm laughing to myself because it's funny. I'm thinking, what is going to convince me? Like, even when you were saying that and you said who's quoted it, I'm sitting there, I'm going, don't believe it. Don't believe it. I don't know what I need. It's like I need Kieran Trippier to come out and go, I am not leaving. And I might be like, are you though? Like, this is the trouble, because with the transfer window, anything can happen. So I'm not trying to say it's a lie, but yeah, I just feel like it's just one big game. I still feel like it's one big game. I really do. But what I was going to ask was, just as an extra one, because I saw this, I don't know if it was earlier today or last night. It might have been last night. Did any of you see the interview? And if it's his fault, I'm coming for him. Did anyone see the interview with Lothar Matthäus? And Lothar Matthäus was basically slagging off their recruitment, the way they recruited. And he said, like they're going for players like Eric Dyer and now Kieran Trippier. And he was slagging it off. And now that he's come out and said that, I'm thinking, have the owners at Bayern gone, oh shit, even Lothar Matthäus is slagging us off, we're going to have to do something. I don't know if you boys have seen that, but I watched it last night and I was like, Jesus. Lothar Matthäus was just sat doing an interview and he was like, yeah, it's a joke. Look at Leverkusen. He was loving Xabi Alonso and saying how great Leverkusen are. And obviously Lothar Matthäus is a Bayern Munich legend. And he was basically just sitting there slagging them off, saying Eric Dyer couldn't even get in the Tottenham first team. And then he started talking about Kieran Trippier. And it's just a coincidence now that the Bayern, president or chairman has come out and gone, yeah, we're not 100% convinced, so we're pulling out. So this could all be Lothar Matthäus' fault, boys. I'm just saying.
He's right about Eric Dyer, but not about Trippier.
But he's questioned the fact that they were trying to sign a 33-year-old. He was like, why? He was like, you know, how's that going to be building for the future? And he was talking about Leverkusen's recruitment and how they're going for youth players and stuff. And it just, well, hopefully it's not low for Matthäus, but it could be. It could be low for Matthäus' fault.
I just want to touch on this, boys. That Alan Curry comment. Just because you know, it's something that we're not necessarily, that we don't see or hear of kind of on our channel. But he's put, I hope this is not a cross section of our fan base criticising Eddie and Miggy. Give your heads a good shake. It's embarrassing. I don't know where you've seen that, whether you've seen it in the chat. We certainly haven't said that. If anyone who knows this channel, you know what we think about Eddie Howe. We absolutely love the guy. And with Miggy Almiron, the only things that we've talked about in terms of Miggy going is purely finances to build the squad. I think we know what Miggy gives to the team. We know you only have to go back to the Sunderland reaction to talk about how much we think of what he does when he's on form. But ultimately, we're talking about transfers here, and we've got an opinion of the wider picture. And we're looking at why they might be considering selling him and why Miguel Almiron might well be leaving the club. Not because we're desperate for him to leave the club. I think it's more from a Newcastle fan perspective, certainly from the sections in our chat, it might well be from the point that they can see Miguel Almiron leaving in with is going out and spending money on bringing players in. And I think at this point, when we've got a squad that have got a lot of injuries and there's been a little bit threadbare this season, I think Newcastle fans are thinking getting players in and beefing up the squad and sacrificing maybe Miguel Almiron to do that may be the right way moving forward. I have to agree with you though, Alan, with regards to the wider fan base on social media, because I've seen some comments, some tweets, and even some compilation videos.
I was going to say, I've seen that
kind of moments. I just think it's completely disrespectful of a player that's actually in the last year or so, like really worked his socks off for Newcastle United. Had his best season of his career last season. Hasn't hit the heights before, but if you've watched the channel over a period of months with us, even when he hasn't hit the heights, we can be frustrated that he doesn't use his right foot. I think everyone's frustrated, but I think in terms of what he gives to the team, I don't think that's in question. I think if he does leave the club, you know, us for one as a channel will give him the respect that he deserves for what he's given to this club and what he's done for us during that period of time. So yeah, I'm not sure kind of where you saw that, Alan, but certainly from our perspective, that's not the case, and we will always look at things from a wider picture when we give an assessment on any player, not just Miguel Almiron.
But ultimately, we have to trade, and that's what we're going to have to do going forward. And there's the key players. I've named 6 yesterday that we can't move, and I don't want to see moving. And all the rest, then it's if a deal comes out, he's a sellable asset because of his contract situation as well. Yeah, but let's see how it all plays out.
Definitely. I just want to put this the tweet that I saw up. This is from Christian Folk. This is exactly what was said in Head of Sport.
Lies.
I knew it was coming. I knew you were going to say it. It came up. Lies. Web of lies. Oh man!
I mean, Christoph. Sorry, you know, you only want to do stuff that you're 100% convinced of. Was that after the second or the third bid? Which one is it, Christoph? Jesus.
Oh, brilliant! That is brilliant. Look, it's there. It said the topic of Kieran Trippier is over. We only do what we are 100% convinced of. Clearly, they don't want to pay the money, 20 million to get him. And let's face it, we are overpricing him to get the best deal possible for us. They are being smart about it. But who's to say? And I'm going, I'm kind of siding with Chris here. Who's to say that they don't get desperate? They are 6-7 points off Leverkusen in the Bundesliga. There's rumors of Tuchel's job on the line. There is they're not playing well. Harry Kane in his first season in Bundesliga thought he was odds on to get his Bundesliga title, and looks like that's not happening. You know, who's to say that they don't get desperate and go, we need him, let's go get him. You know, that Nord Mukelele doesn't look like it's getting any closer. I'm in the middle here. I'm just kind of like in opinions either side of the coin.
This is it.
But who's
and
to say?
Christoph's going to look very stupid if they come back in with that 20 million.
Yeah, definitely.
Could happen.
You are.
Who knows? Yeah. Who knows?
Any other questions,
Chris? Yeah, there are some other questions. Chris, I want to go to this because you came out with an outrageous statement today.
It wasn't outrageous. It
was absolutely outrageous, right?
You need to sort of follow this.
Tony says, just setting off for work. But before I do, Chris Hall, did you have a bang on the head earlier on? Ben Godfrey, come on. I'd rather we sign Neville Southall. He's back. He's linked again. Now,
Nev.
So go on, have your say on Ben Godfrey.
Do you know what, right? I mean, a few people came for me on Twitter today. It was nice to see Yano backing me there in the chat, and a couple of people did as well. But like for me, and I'm not saying let's go all out and get Ben Godfrey. I'm not suggesting that. But all I purely said was, I noticed Ben Godfrey had been linked with a loan move to Leeds. Now his career hasn't quite panned out the way it should have at Everton, and I do have a lot of sympathy for Ben Godfrey because he came in as a bright prospect from Norwich. I've obviously seen maybe more of him than most. Having a couple of Evertonians in the house, so obviously I watch him probably more than most people do. But I just think he's got all the raw ingredients to be a really good centre back. I think he's 26 years old. I think you could probably pick him up for 10 or 15 million. And my argument today on Twitter was, he's a player who, if coached properly, I think he could turn into a half decent player. And let's be honest, boys. And I was talking about squad today, saying we need centre backs, don't we? And we've got Sven Botman, brilliant. We've got Dan Burn as the backup, brilliant. We've got Fabian Schär, brilliant. And in time, we're going to you need 5 centre backs, I would say, in a full season to kind of there as support. Now you can't in the summer go out and get 5 Sven Botmans, because you're going to have 3 Sven Botmans who are going to be sitting on the bench or not even in the matchday squad going, when am I going to be playing football? So you need a squad of players. And my argument was, if you could pick Ben Godfrey up for a reasonable fee, who's also been playing fullback for Everton, both right and left, predominantly left, I thought it's not a bad signing. And I thought, I'm going to put that out in the world. That's my little thought of the day. I thought, I'm going to pop that out. Well, it caused absolute chaos. Okay, member 3 months. Brilliant, mate. Nice one, so I just purely said it might not be such a bad signing, as in like a good squad player, and he's certainly for me an upgrade on the likes of Lascelles, Dummett. What I said was I thought he wouldn't be bad, and then everyone just started coming for me, going Ben Godfrey's crap. I hate Ben Godfrey. I'm not playing. Why would you want to sign Ben Godfrey? So let's just see how Ben Godfrey does, and if he goes to Leeds, good luck to him. And if a big club signs for him, I'm going to come for every single one he is in the chat. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows?
I'm going to stick your head in a picture, Chris, with Ben Godfrey and Neville Southall in the background. Outside Goodison Park.
His athleticism means he could be a real asset to this team. One of the things that we lack is pace, and he has that in abundance. 100%. Big, physical centre-back. He's at the wrong team. He made the wrong decision to leave Norwich to go to Everton that were in the worst possible moment. For me, on a cheap deal, I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world. I think he's linked with a lot of European teams who may, banging the drum. I don't think it'd be the worst deal in the world. And actually, I don't think there would be, I think there could well be, in terms of ability, an upgrade there between him and Lascelles. And look, Yano said it, you've said it, Chris. He can play right back. He's not really a full back, but if you needed him in an emergency, he can do that. So there's that versatility there. Would he be my first choice? No, he wouldn't, and I don't think he'd be any of our first choices. But I just think, if Lascelles was to leave and you needed a replacement, still a decent age. Was he 26?
26, yeah.
Bad. Yeah, I just think that wouldn't be the worst deal in the world. If we could recapture his Norwich form, he was superb for Norwich. Like, I think we talked about him when he was at Norwich, when they were getting relegated, about how good he was. But yeah, let's see.
That's a great shout, by the way. That's a great shout by Golden God.
Him and Jamal Lewis left at the same time. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, if he'd have joined Liverpool, could have been a completely different story.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. He joined in a Steve Bruce era. I think if Jamal Lewis had joined in an Eddie Howe era, I think we're having a different conversation there. But I think that's more than a valid point. And look, Jordan 2 for life. Come on, man. Come on. You got to look at the bigger picture. We've just said he's not a go-to guy. He's not a guy that you would get. But if you're going to lose Jamal Lascelles on a free to Benfica, he wishes he was at Benfica, Besiktas, I don't see it as the worst deal in the world to get someone in, even if it was for a short-term period of time, as a backup, and then you transition out and you get other players. You keep him for a year. You maybe make some money on him if he plays well. It's all a part of the squad game. It's all a part of the squad game.
Squad game. We'll link into it with that one then. Chris, you owe Peter Brandy for that now.
Yes.
Right. But Lisa asked the question.
You know.
I know Lisa has to pop off, but she asked when is the next squad games. Yeah, look, it's ready to go. It's just that we parked it for a while. It wasn't right when the transfer window was on. We'll push it in between now and the end of the season, let's say.
We're waiting until we get all our signings, aren't we, Daz?
Yeah. We'll see what happens. This is okay. One from GK here. If you're watching this and you're liking this, just hit that like button. There has been a crazy amount of quality content on this channel. Do your part. Cheers, GK, on that one. Thanks very much. And yeah, share with your friends as well and let them know about Loaded. The more people that know about us, the better. Moving into the next comment I wanted to go to, and it's from Frederick. Frederick, maybe in Sweden, he's definitely, I'd say, in Scandinavia, but he talks about the Swedish guy, or Lucas Bervergal, we're linked with. Now, it does look like he's going to Barcelona. There's been a lot of links to Barcelona there. So, but he looks very good from the video that I saw. But let's see how it plays out. But I imagine Barcelona is where he'd end up. This is a question I want to end it on. Alan Thompson asked the question, lads, generally, would you like to interview Eddie Howe? And if you had one question, what would it be? I think I'll go for Eddie. Do you watch Loaded? But he'd probably just say no, and then that'd be it. But any ideas what you go for?
I don't know. That's one that I need to think about. I only have one question. That's one I'd need to think about.
If I had to like on the spot, so say like he's walking past me now and I'm thinking, I've got to ask him something. And so just off the top of my head, without putting any proper thought into it, I'd say to him, if you could sign one player, who would that player be? Who's your dream signing? Regardless of money or anything, I'd just be interested to know who Eddie Howe would like, given that he is he likes a particular type of player. I mean, chances are they'd be a Premier League player and chances are they'd be English, but I'd still ask him the question.
For Bournemouth.
Yeah, he's got to play for Bournemouth. He's got to. And if you said Dominic Solanke, I think I'd be away.
I'm gonna. For some, it might be boring, but it's not to me. I would ask him outright if I could come and watch him for a day or a week, see what he does day to day.
Just at work, or just follow him home and everything, is it?
A lot, I don't care. No, joking. No, you know that I loved Eddie Howe before he came to the club, and I'd love to see kind of how what he does on a day-to-day basis, what makes him tick, what's his opinion, and how he makes him kind of work. He probably sleeps at the training ground, so we'll say, yeah, why not?
Let's do it.
Just make sure that he's safe and he's comfortable.
Watch over him as he sleeps.
No, just get him a warm glass of milk and a cookie. Make sure that
A brandy.
Okay.
Get him a brandy. Get him a brandy. That's what he needs.
Maybe. But no, on a serious level, just watching the inner workings of him as a coach and as a manager, the team meetings, what he does on the training ground, how he kind of inputs his tactical kind of expectations on the play, all those sorts of stuff. And I'd also like to sit in one of his transfer meetings, how those decisions get made. So that's why I would love to ask him for a day or a week in the life of Eddie Howe. Certainly this week. This week would be a perfect week to watch him.
I just hope he didn't say no.
Yeah. And if he does watch Loaded, he doesn't anymore. After listening to this,
he hasn't got a choice. I'm asking him the question. It's yes.
The answer's got to be yes. Yeah. I like that.
All right, let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Shout out to, let me get them here, the details. Shout out to H2O Bathroom Design Co. And go call into the lads and lasses there and check out the latest bathrooms they have. I'll show you some of the old pictures. We probably get some new pictures pretty soon, but tell them we sent you their direction, and see if there's something you're interested in. Also, shout out to the radiatorshed.com. Go check out the website for the latest from Russ there, and all the snazzy radiators that Russ has there, and you can get them installed with the install works as well. So check that out if you're in the market for radiators. That's it, I think, for the show tonight. We don't know when we're back again. I know we're back. We're going to be back for the watch along on Saturday night. I think I've set it up now for 6:30. But we may be back if there's some news. We could even be back tonight if there's massive breaking news. You never know. We might jump back on again, but it'll have to be massive. It won't be another one of those. Yes, maybe we would come back with that. Get him on. Explain yourself. Right, I think that is it. Anything else, lads, you want to say? Smash that like button on the way out. 307 likes is the target.
Yeah, let's get it done. Thanks for watching, and click those subscribe, likes, all that good stuff on the way out. Right, as Pete goes off to get in contact with Eddie Howe, we'll leave it there. Good night, everyone. How'd you like that?
How you like